only me today. All right, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. City Council likes to have press conferences when there's things that we think that we would like to get out to the public, the media as best we can. Today I want to talk specifically about my opposition to awarding an ambulance contract for the next 5 years without an RFP. Historically in Sioux Falls, the ambulance has been very controversial. Go all the way back to when Jack White was mayor, and the decision was made by the city council at that time to have one franchise ambulance in Sioux Falls. Very competitive, very heated at that time. Since that time, we've always gone out for an RFP. Now, the current provider has been good to Sioux Falls. I have no bones about what they've done, the service they've provided. But I believe good government service to the public and the taxpayers demand us to go out and get the best possible bid we can from any of the ambulance providers. When Director Kipley made it known that his intent was to just award this another 5 years, I had meetings with other city council members and other people about my opposition to that plan. And I had a private meeting with Director Kipley and expressed to him I thought it was the wrong way to go. So we are on the agenda. According to Director Kipley, he would like to have first reading of that next week. Well, nobody's seen the contract yet. And when it comes to providing the rates, when it comes to providing the times, when it comes to providing all of those things, the city council will not have the time to do due diligence if we only have a week. I've been involved in the ambulance thing since the first thing 40 years ago about how it works. And this is the wrong thing. Now, along with that, I think we've started to tread down a dangerous path in the city of Sioux Falls when it comes to professional service contracts. When this came up, I had the staff, and Jody Moss has done great work to try and provide to us, City Council, how much professional services contracts were given without RFPs. Well, the state laws allows the city to give like ambulance contracts and some professional services without going through an RFP. Well, it's been over $100 million in the last 5 years have gone out to these things. Consistently on the list are some of the same providers. I have no doubt that they've done a good job. I'm not going to pick on anybody, but I think we owe it to the citizens, and the city council should do its due diligence by second guessing, so I won't say second, adding to the level of scrutiny for these professional services contract. So I'm currently working on a new ordinance to put another, and I'll call it a worksheet that the department heads can provide to the city council on what kind of due diligence they've done, whether it be consulting, whether it be, well, here's a couple of examples that you'll see on tonight's agenda. There is Optimum Leadership Workshops for $49,999.99. That's going through the consent agenda tonight. Also, $1.8 million for IT development services. That is a professional services contract. Does not require an RFP. So those are the type of things I'd like to have more scrutiny on from that. So with that, that's really all I have, but I'm open to questions, but I'm hoping the city council can see fit to request from the administration to do an RFP. It's not due till May. The contract's not up till May. So with that, I'll take questions.
South Dakota in general has always had kind of a benign approach to professional services contracts in terms of transparency. Is this a cultural thing that we've developed over time, that these professional services contracts don't need that level of scrutiny that an RFP would bring?
Well, I can't address how the legislature's thought process was in there, but I will tell you it's different in Sioux Falls. If you're in Worthing or you're in Winter, where maybe there's not such a high level of dollar amounts going out, I can understand where you have to trust your administration to a certain point to get things done. I totally understand it. I'm taking that away. I'm not going to go out and try and change the state law, but when things like this franchise agreement for an ambulance, or if you are thinking down the road there might be a franchise agreement for a single garbage provider, I think those things should be mandated by the city council to go ahead and do an RFP.
The ambulance one has got to be one of the biggest contracts, professional service contracts the city enters into, isn't it?
Well, it's unknown. It's unknown how much this franchise agreement is actually worth. We know that over a 5-year period, that's a multi-million-dollar, multi-year agreement. And nobody really knows how much money they're going to generate off of doing that. But I will tell you this, after this came out last week, that it was certainly that Director Kipley was going to go forward. I made 2 phone calls, 10 minutes on the phone. I had 2 ambulance services that are local that want to get a chance at the RFP. Of course, Jay Mazur's group from Brandon and Sanford. Sanford runs the ambulance in Fargo-Moorhead. They would more than certainly be interested in putting in a bid to come with our ambulance. That's only 2 phone calls. Now, I'm sure there's nationwide ones like AMR or maybe Gold Cross that would be interested in doing it too. I think we owe it to the citizens of Sioux Falls to do the due diligence, to do the hard work, to get the best bid possible.
Can you remind us when the current provider came on, did we do an RFP in that transition, or how did that process work? Because memory fails me in terms of the reason we switched, but it was some performance issues.
Why they picked the current ambulance was prior to my period. It was this contract that it's under is was extended once. I voted to extend it based on their performance. And that was written right into the contract that there was an extension available to them. So we went ahead and approved the extension. It ends in May of 2026, and the total time period was 11 years for this current provider. They've gone through an ownership change, or excuse me, a name change in the meantime on what they've done.
Do you have any indication as to why we're not? What's the resistance to an RFP? Good or bad? Like, what's the reason?
Well, you'll have to ask Director Kipley, but the indications that we get on council is that this provider has done a good job, and they just want to extend the contract. The consultant that came in from Fitch and Associates last year and earlier this year has said that our model that we have today is unique because it's working. In other parts of the country, it's really failing because private ambulance services are having a hard time when it comes to emergency services, so the reimbursement rates, and the fact that there's a lot of people today without health insurance, so they're not getting reimbursed.
And I remember that report, and the suggestion was we're sort of teetering on a point where we need to have a city-operated ambulance service that would be integrated with the fire department or however that would work. Do you think it's time to have that discussion? And should we be extending on 5 years when we don't know that the environment in which this ambulance service will need to work in 5 years, over the next 5 years?
It's a great question. The consultant said we probably have 3 to 5 years in the current model to make it work based on the reimbursement environment that we're in. Well, since that time, we've got the big bad bill has gone through, which will drop people off of Medicaid, will lower the reimbursement rates for a lot of that. I would love to have the discussion on which model we go forward, but there is no appetite for anybody else to do that, whether it be fire department, hospital run, or private ambulance service. I'm probably the only one that's willing to have that discussion because it's going to be a huge change if we do make it. And it's going to be expensive for the taxpayers to fund a fire department model. But it must be profitable because of these ambulance service like Sanford and currently our PMS, they want to have that contract. So there must be some money in there someplace.
It's going to be less money than there was because of the changes in the federal Medicaid.
I would think so. Okay. But you know, there's a 30-day, they have to give us 30 days if they decide to change their model or go out of business. They give us, so the fire department today, I know is in better shape than one certainly was 25 years ago because we have some ambulances. We have some paramedics. And actually, the way Director Kipley has explained it to the council, the fire department would be on standby while the current ambulance system would be like at a Washington High School football game. Fire department would be on standby.
Does the city subsidize any part of this ambulance service?
Well, we don't write a check to them, but we certainly do subsidize them on a lot of monetary ways. Like the fire department does lift assist, they go on the same calls, they assist them in that way. We provide a certain amount of 911 calls for that. That's really not, the emergency ones are not reimbursed. That whole reimbursement rate, I'm not quite sure what they pay. Director Kipley has indicated that there would be a subsidy to them of $50,000 worth of radios. I probably think that's where we're going to go in the future if we do that, but we don't write them a check.
Are you hoping the RFP process could present more competitive options to the city besides what just this one has to offer?
Absolutely. And it's not so much, if you look back when the city had, there was a lot of consternation about moving to a different model of the golf courses. To move from a local guy, we went with Landscape Golf to run the golf courses. They actually provide the city of Sioux Falls paycheck or a check every year on how much money they generate, and the city recoups some of that and part of our fees. I don't think an ambulance service is going to do that. Actually, I'm not too interested in that. But when it comes to the rates that they charge the citizens for a heart attack, the rates that they charge for a transport, that's all written into the contract. So if you were to break your ankle at a ball game and they came to pick you up, that's where the city council has the right and the duty to pick that rate. And what I'm hoping for is if we get more bids, the cost to the citizens for emergency transports will be less than it currently is.
When will you see the contract?
I don't know. Director Kipley's indicated his first reading would be next week. So I've told him as soon as the contract's done, I'd certainly like to take a look at it. So there's no way the city council can do their due diligence in a week or
So
even 3 weeks on this.
No one on the council has seen the
Not
contract.
to my knowledge, and he's not provided it to anybody. So,
And did you say you're proposing something tonight about professional service contracts?
I'm working on a ordinance to put more language in the professional service contract. It's not done, probably be sometime in August that I'll put that in there. And all it's going to be is like, I want to know if you contact XYZ to do the consulting, who else did you talk to? Why did you pick XYZ? What's their expertise? Give us some more details about, and I want them written out too. Just don't get up the podium and tell us. I want to actually have a document in my hand and say, well, they went with XYZ because ABC here in town doesn't have the certification, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you.
How are you going to vote on the election date?
That's tonight, right?
Yeah?
I will say I anticipate some spirited public input. I don't anticipate real dynamic discussion by the city council because you look at our makeup today, we're not really bombastic people on there. I personally am going to vote for a June election, and I'm personally going to vote for 50%.
Do you have any indication which way it's going to go? Do you think it seemed like at one point there was some general agreement that June was better for this one cycle because you don't get to decide for the second cycle, but for this one cycle, June was better because of the budget timing, all that kind of stuff. Is that the more practical approach?
I think so. I think June is the appropriate approach because of those things, and certainly the Charter Revision Committee will put something on there for the 28 election. I will say that the conversations that I've had with council members have been all over the board. One day they're 60% in favor of this thing, the next day they're 70% in there. So there's not anybody that is so concrete in any day. There's not going to be any heartburn if it goes one way or the other. But I would hope that the June one would prevail for a lot of different reasons. But because first off, well, my personal opinion, I wish it would have never changed. It's hard enough to get the attention of the public when you're running for public office. And the larger the election, the more money it takes and the harder it is to get your name out there.
It's going to be one of the largest Republican primaries in recent memory. How is that going to influence the city election?
Well, I will change that for you. I believe the mayor's election will drive people to the polls more than the Republican primary.
Touche.
I know it's only the first reading tonight, but what are your thoughts on the passing the fees of credit cards onto the customers of the city of Sioux Falls, for the city of Sioux Falls fees?
That's a great question, and there is a level of service that the city should provide to its clients, but I will say there's enough ways for people to pay their bills without the credit card fees on there. And it did surprise me when the finance director told me it's over $1 million that we do that. And in today's environment for scraping the money any place we can, I'm all in favor of that. If I choose to pay for it with a credit card and I have to pay an extra 3% or 3.5% to American Express, I'm willing to do that. I'm one of the few people that still carry cash, and I also know my wife pays bills by writing checks. So those options are still there. Yeah, don't look surprised, she does. Any other questions? Nobody wants to ask me about the Twins? Or my Twins need some pitching. I'm not available out of the bullpen anymore, so with that, thank you all for coming. Should be an interesting night at the council meeting.